this is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's the battle of aluminum phones right here. We have the HTC One M8, and this is the iPhone 5S. Both obviously very attractive phones, available in the same colors too, silver, gunmetal, gray, or gold. Both have very sharp, colorful displays. Both are available on all major carriers, so how do you decide? We're going to help you now. So here they are. Phone and Phone Junior. Look at the difference in the size right here. Now, I think that's one of the most important things when deciding which phone you want. But, you know, one of our most popular comparison smackdowns on YouTube ever has been the iPhone 5S versus the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. And boy, is there a huge size differential. So obviously, you guys are thinking and you gals are thinking across the board here when it comes to size. And this size difference might not be, well, that significant. But still, obviously, one phone is a lot bigger than the other. 4-inch display versus 5-inch display, so the phones are going to be different in size. For those of you with small pockets, designer clothing, small handbags, whatever it is, that can make a difference. Those of you who have small hands, too. I've met people who say they're dying for the next big screen iPhone, supposing that that might be real. Hopefully it is. And there are those who say, no, I would really, really not go above this in size. So that's up to you. Both of these, they're the two classy guys on the block right here. We have space gray and gunmetal gray. So the gray offering from each manufacturer. And you can get these in silver, which is a very light color. On the HTC, it looks kind of like the last HTC one. This gunmetal color, very attractive, and gold. On the HTC, the gold is kind of more gold, like a gold brick gold, whereas it's champagne on the iPhone. Anyway, two of the nicest looking phones on the market. For those of you who like classy phones with a lot of metal, you've got it here. Apple's still going with their kind of edgy, angular, with curved corners, Leica-inspired design, as they say. Beautiful quality piece. Even the buttons look sculpted and well made. And on our HTC, this brushed stainless steel here is just really nice looking. It doesn't look like anything else. So certainly it's very distinctive looking, more curvy too, which is nice for those of you who don't like the angular thing. You don't want anything biting into your hands. The sides straighten out just enough so you got some gripping point right there. So either way, a very well-made phone, lots of attention to detail, very clean button design over here. A little easy to accidentally activate the rocker here for the volume, but not a huge complaint. Nice looking phones either way. Is it a big difference? I don't know. That's up to you. Another difference is the fingerprint scanner on the iPhone 5S. The home button is also a fingerprint scanner for Touch ID. It is kind of handy. I mean, I myself realized I should have a passcode on my phone, but then it's really a pain every time you unlock your phone to have to punch in a passcode. So it's gotten me in the habit of actually keeping my phone secure. The HTC does not have such security. You can put a passcode on here, but you're going to have to type it in or use the pattern-based passcode, whatever you want. How about the screens? And we have them both set to approximately the same brightness. It's hard to really control it. They're set at about 2/3 what their respective auto brightness is activated at. HTC goes towards the bright end, unlike Samsung, and Apple usually has something balanced in between. But anyway. So the HTC One M8, full 5 inches, 1920 by 1080. That's 441 ppi pixel density. The iPhone 5S, well, the iPhone used to be the resolution leader, not so much anymore. 1136 by 640. In a smaller display, so PPI is still good. It's 326. That's why it's called a Retina display. Supposedly at normal holding distance away from your face, that you won't be able to see dots. Can I see dots? No, I can't. Do I have perfect eyes? Well, pretty much with my glasses on. Yeah, I do. Anyway, both of these are very sharp and clear. Obviously, you're going to see a lot more on screen with the bigger device right here, the HTC. Big selling point, I think, for a lot of people. The only thing that may be fending off more folks running over to the HTC M8 is the rumor of a bigger screen, higher resolution iPhone. Again, it's just a rumor. We don't know if it's true, but there it is. Something else that's holding people either to Android right here or iOS is their love of those respective operating systems. That's always really important. I know a lot of you are now dabbling in both of them. It's great to see. Less fanboyism, more trying out and see which is the one that's best for you. Maybe you like them both. Anyway, iOS, the whole iTunes ecosystem, you know the story. The most apps available, although when it comes to phone apps, Android's pretty much up there now. It's only tablet apps where they're lagging. In addition to the iTunes ecosystem, you know, that means also the music, the videos, all that kind of stuff. Google Play has their own shtick there, so you can get music, movies, books from them too, and a whole lot of third-party apps on both of these. You can run Netflix, you can run Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Nook application, lots of ways to get your content. Zinio also. But still, for those who have a favorite, keep that in mind. iOS, as ever, is always the keep it simple operating system. You have your grid of icons here. Here we have customizable desktop. You can put your widgets, like we have our clock weather widget here that comes from HTC. We've got, in this case, it's the carrier My Verizon maintenance stuff to maintain your connections. HTC includes Blink Feed, which is sort of like Flipboard in a way. It's news feeds and visually pleasing kind of stuff that actually uses up one of your home screens. If you tap there, you get the same grid of icons. So once you leave the desktop, you get the same kind of app drawer experience over here. Now, one nice thing about HTC, and I think that's why a lot of iPhone folks consider it, is it's a pretty light, simple customization. It doesn't have 9,000 million bells and whistles, say, like a Samsung Galaxy phone does. So it's less glaring if you're going to switch, say, from iOS over to Android on the HTC One M8 versus some other carriers like Samsung and LG that do a whole lot of extra stuff and features upon features. Both are very quick. Both are very fast. These are some of the fastest devices available. Now, on paper, HTC might look faster. This has the new Snapdragon 801. That's a quad-core, 2.3 gigahertz CPU. And our iPhone, wow, it sounds like it doesn't have much here, but we have a 1.3 gigahertz Apple A7 dual-core CPU, but sometimes cores don't say it all, because on synthetic benchmarks, for whatever they mean, because we know a lot of manufacturers are now gaming the benchmarks, they score very similarly, and in fact, the iPhone does better on the SunSpider JavaScript test for web page rendering. So we're not going to beat that point too much. They're both about as fast as you can get on their respective platforms. They're responsive. They can run the latest 3D games. They can do it all. iPhone has 1 gig of RAM. Our HTC M8 has 2 gigs of RAM. For multitasking, it's nice to have more RAM. Also, Android does use more RAM in general than iOS. Apple controls the hardware and the software, so they have a real tight ecosystem here. So again, I wouldn't read too much significance into that difference. Now, while we were talking about browsers and JavaScript speeds, you get Safari, which is a perfectly fine WebKit-based web browser on the iPhone. Other third-party browsers really have to use the Safari engine. When you're looking at Android, you can have very different web browsers. You can have Firefox on here using its own engine. You can have the WebKit web browser of old on some Android phones, for example. Chrome, the newer web browser that Google makes, Boat browser. So more browser choice here. Now, that's nice in case you run into compatibility problems. A lot of websites do optimize for mobile browsers pretty well these days, but where it comes in handy is for those of you more geeky types who are still in love with Adobe Flash on mobile platforms. That was discontinued more than a year ago for Android, but a couple of browsers you can sideload the last available version of Adobe Flash Player, which again is getting kind of old now. But anyway, you can sideload it and still get some Flash action going on your HTC One M8. When it comes to ports, we got the Lightning port as ever on the modern iOS devices, and we have micro USB on this. Either way, you get a cable that connects it to USB on your computer for syncing, and you also use that for charging. They both have headphone jacks, of course. The HTC One M8 pulls ahead in one nice way. Our US versions have 32 gigs of storage. I know some of you overseas get 16 gigs, but we're going to talk about the US version because, well, we're in the US. The iPhone starts out with 16 gigs of storage, and they're both $199 with contract and around $650. Actually, you can get the HTC, depending on the carrier, the HTC One M8, maybe for $600 without contract. So you're getting double the storage for your price there, which is nice. But even better now, HTC heard us complaining about the last HTC One, and they put in a micro SD card slot. So you can further expand storage. Now, the Android's not customized in any way to allow you to put apps on SD cards, but you can put all your media files there, all your movies, all your photos, all those big bulky things anyway you can put on there. So a little bit more versatility there. We also have USB host available on this for you if you want to use USB flash drives and cool stuff like that. Of course, both of these are 4G LTE capable phones. They have dual band Wi-Fi. We have Wi-Fi AC on our HTC One. Bluetooth 4.0. We have NFC on the HTC. Apple's still not grooving on NFC. You can use that for ISIS mobile payments on the HTC. That is preloaded on most versions in the US. On the back, notice we have some similar flashes here. You can see the dual color, bicolor LED flash up here next to the 8 megapixel camera. And HTC decided to go the same thing there. And they also have a bicolor, one amber, one white flash. That's to balance flash pictures so they don't look so warm and orangey so much. So you get that in both. This is HTC's ultra pixel camera. It's unchanged from the last HTC One 4 megapixel equivalent. So obviously, if you want larger shots or more room for cropping, the iPhone is going to do better because you just get more megapixels. HTC does add their secondary camera up here for depth information, and you can use that for blurring out the backgrounds on photos using an editor after the fact, and for doing some sort of 3D effects, which you can find out about if you watch our video review of that or read our written review. But overall, the pictures taken from the rear cameras, the iPhone is very good. They may have a very simple UI. You get a lot more settings, a lot more neat, fun things you can do with editing on the HTC, but the overall quality of the pictures, including accuracy of colors, sharpness, and particularly handling of extreme contrast situations, is better on the iPhone. And we'll show you an example of a low light shot. That's one place where the HTC should do better, because ultra pixel cameras have larger pixel size, so they let in more light. But still, we see that the HTC tends to blow out the whites. And we'll show you a picture taken of our cute kitty cat with both of these. So here we have two pictures taken within a minute of each other. And first thing you're going to notice, it's a lot nicer looking at photos on a 5-inch screen, isn't it? You can see a whole lot there. No, we have a lot of white out here. Now we're going to see some of that on the iPhone too. Not just the white spots on the cat, but the window over here. But notice that he looks brown here. Our cat, well, he's not brown. So the HTC does a little bit more color shifting, and sometimes the HDR kind of overcompensates and brings out some highlights, and you get some loss of detail or some harshness, like the leather or fake leather of our pretty average office chair right there. So we lose a bit of sharpness. We lose a bit of that saturation. Now let's take a look at our iPhone picture. And as we zoom in, there's actually more fine detail on the fur. I know it's kind of a little hard to see here since we're talking about small screen devices. And the white is not as blotched out as it is on our HTC One, where it becomes a kind of oozing out blob of white. And then the detail on the chair, it's got more variety there in the black tones, whereas this has become kind of sort of posterized on our HTC One. It's looking a bit better on the iPhone. Now, they're both not bad photos in a very difficult shot in a dark room with just a little bit of light filtering in the window. But in low light is where HTC should be doing the best, so the iPhone still has a bit of an edge there. Here, the iPhone has the dubious ability to stand up on an edge. Wow, there's a selling point for a phone. Just kidding. How about accessory ecosystem? iOS, well, every iPhone out there, there's a million accessories, from speakers to cases to little miniature keyboards, you name it. There's a whole lot of stuff out there. So you people who love to accessorize, pick me up, your idea of a pick me up is to go out and get a new colored case. There you have it. HTC has a couple of accessories. There's the DockView case that we showed in our full review of that. Love that case. They have a couple of other flip cases there. Not exactly accessory nirvana compared to the iPhone. Now, some of you buy the phone, buy the case, and you're done with it. You don't want to buy a bazillion accessories. You know who you are. It's up to you. With Android, because it's a little bit more open, and with things like USB and Bluetooth, it's pretty easy to use a variety of Bluetooth accessories there. So it's not exactly the end of the world. It's going to work with Bluetooth speakers, with keyboards, with mice, game controllers. There's a few Bluetooth game controllers on the market anyway. So there you have that. In terms of speakers, our iPhone has, right down there, there's our speaker. It's okay. It's not bad. Nobody's going to say, gee, I can't believe that's a phone. HTC One has the Boom Sound stereo speakers, top and bottom. Gone is the Beats audio, but still 25% louder than the last Boom Sound speakers on the first HTC One. Loud enough, full enough that really it sounds more like an Ultrabook than a phone. Pretty impressive there. But how about the front camera? That isn't, we don't spend a lot of time talking about that, because generally they are uniformly mediocre, whether they're 1 megapixel or 2 megapixel. They're almost an afterthought. We have our FaceTime HD 720p camera up front. Now, as cameras go on phones, front cameras, that's not a bad camera. HTC went all out with this. They have a 5 megapixel front camera, backside illuminated sensor, HDR, all the bells and whistles. Can shoot 1080p video. It is awesome looking. It is really good looking. So if you're into selfie madness or you do a whole lot of video chat, you're going to enjoy that. I would say that Apple fights back with the FaceTime experience. It's a really great way. It makes it very easy to connect well with other iOS, Mac users. Very easy to use video chat setup and software. There's no geeking around, no screwing around, say, but you got Skype available on both of these also. In terms of their wireless performance, they're both very good voice phones. They both get similar LTE download and upload speeds, so a tie there, really. Not one is not better than the other when it comes to that. They both play nicely with Bluetooth headsets and the like for calls. Both have GPS. The GPS works fine on both of those. You get the great Google Maps, of course, built in on your HTC One M8, but you can download all sorts of Google services for your iPhone too. And you can discover that it can tip over every once in a while. Do not spend your day doing that because, yeah. And there we have this keyboard, which reminds me, this is the iPhone's pretty close to unchanging keyboard. They make small mods once in a while. If you want to hit the numbers, you got to hit the number. That kind of makes me a little bit crazy. I don't like that. So let's see what HTC has for their keyboard. And here's HTC keyboard. I love the optional press and hold to get your numbers. My personal preference is actually this keyboard. Now with Android, you can add all sorts of third-party keyboards on too, so that's nice. The iPhone, it does have, one thing it has going for it is it's just very good. Most people find that they can do very good error-free typing on it, so functionally it works very well. But in terms of folks who want the easy access to the numbers and other things, Android has a little heads up there. When it comes to voice command, on our iPhone we get Siri, you know all about that. Now it's reasonably pretty accurate, it's often very entertaining, she seems to have a little bit of a sense of humor, and we get Google voice control and voice search on the HTC One M8, which works very well also. Google it's not known for their sense of humor, but that's okay, it's straightforward, it gets the job done, use it all the time, so either way, you're going to get some pretty good voice commands. Both of these have batteries that are sealed inside. Obviously, you don't see any way to open this up, do you? No. And the iPhone is sealed too. Bigger battery here in the HTC One M8. Well, of course, it also needs a higher clock CPU, quad-core 2.3 gigahertz CPU with a bigger 5-inch display pushing more pixels versus our 1.3 gigahertz dual-core with a smaller display and fewer pixels. But 2600 milliamp, talking around 1500 milliamps for the iPhone. So HTC obviously has more battery power. To a certain extent it needs it, but one of the neat things about the HTC M8 is its very good battery life. Really, it's very hard to kill on a full day of use, even with heavy use on a charge. The iPhone's pretty good. It'll generally make it through the day. With heavy use, you might find you're not going to make it till 10 o'clock at night if you start out early in the day. It's about average among smartphones. So the HTC One M8 pulls through with better battery life. It also managed to play video for longer than our iPhone 5S did. In the US edition, we don't yet have it, but there's going to be an extreme power saving mode that you can choose to. Now, that limits greatly what you can do with the phone. You can only do email, text, voice calls, but then supposedly with 20% battery, you can go on for an obscene number of hours. So if you ever get stuck on a desert island, that would be the option you want. So which would I pick? You're going to hate me because I'm going to say one of each. And I'm fortunate enough because I review these all the time. I do get to carry more than one phone. I really wouldn't want to choose between these. I do enjoy the iPhone 5S because it's small, it's simple, it's very reliable. The whole FaceTime experience, if you know other iOS users, is really very great. And the iMessage experience too is compelling. The selection of apps, all that sort of stuff. The security, it's all very nice, the fingerprint ID. So even though it's smaller, it's less wow with bells and whistles, it has a lot of attraction and I actually enjoy it a lot. The HTC One M8, on the other hand, absolutely gorgeous design. I do prefer a bigger screen. I really do enjoy the bigger screen. Looking at photos, watching videos, all that sort of thing. And the customizability of Android is very appealing. So the thing is, either way, you're going to get a really nice phone. And that's a good thing. So that's the HTC One M8. That's the revised HTC One, just available now, and the iPhone 5S. Either way, you're getting a really nice phone. And this is a hard decision. Man, I want one of each, basically. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch our reviews of each of these on YouTube, read our written reviews, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.